What would the Earth look like if humans suddenly vanished? No cities, no traffic, no lights in the night, just wind, water, and time. In a few days, the world would begin to change. In a few centuries, it might be almost unrecognizable. For thousands of years, humanity has reshaped the planet. We've cut forests, redirected rivers, mined mountains, and built cities across every continent. We've created highways that stretch for thousands of kilometers, power grids that circle the globe, and artificial lights so bright they can be seen from space. But what if all of it simply stopped? No warning, no disaster, no explanation. Just silence. Scientists have explored this scenario, not as fantasy, but as a way to understand how nature responds when human pressure disappears. And the results are not just dramatic, they are strangely peaceful and deeply unsettling. Tonight, we'll explore 3 places and phenomena that reveal what Earth might become without us. The first changes would happen faster than most people expect. Within hours, power plants would begin to fail. Most electrical grids require constant human supervision. Without operators, fuel supplies would run out, cooling systems would shut down, and cities would go dark. At night, the glowing networks of lights visible from space would slowly disappear, one region after another fading into darkness. Within a day, most of the world's power would be gone. Within a week, refrigeration systems would fail. Food would begin to rot in stores and homes. Water systems would stop within days. Subway tunnels would begin to flood. Low-lying streets would fill with stagnant water. In colder regions, winter would do the rest. Pipes would freeze. Concrete would crack. Roofs would collapse under snow. In warmer climates, plants would begin to grow almost immediately. Seeds carried by the wind would settle into cracks in the pavement. Rainwater would pool in empty streets. And weeds would begin their slow, quiet takeover. Within just a few decades, vines would climb over traffic lights. Trees would grow through rooftops. Birds would nest in abandoned apartments. After a century, many smaller cities would be almost unrecognizable. Roads would break apart, bridges would collapse, glass towers would stand empty, their windows shattered by storms. After a few hundred years, forests would reclaim entire metropolitan areas. The outlines of skyscrapers might still be visible, but they would rise from a sea of green. Cities like New York, Tokyo, or London would not disappear overnight. Their steel and concrete structures could stand for centuries, but without maintenance, even the strongest buildings would eventually fail. Rust never stops, water always finds a way in, and gravity is patient. Given enough time, even the tallest skyline would return to the ground. As cities fade, the natural world would begin to move back in. Not slowly, but almost immediately. In many parts of the world, wildlife already lives on the edges of human space. Foxes in suburbs, coyotes in city parks, leopards in the outskirts of large cities, wild boars wandering through European streets at night. Without traffic, noise, and human presence, animals would spread into empty neighborhoods within weeks. Pets would be among the first to face the new reality. Many dogs, cats, and livestock depend entirely on humans for food and shelter. Some would starve, others would escape. A small number would adapt. Over generations, certain dog populations might slowly return to wild behaviors. Smaller, more adaptable animals would survive more easily. Meanwhile, zoo enclosures would begin to fail. Gates would rust, fences would collapse, and some animals would escape into the wild. Not all of them would survive, but a few species could establish new populations. In forests, the changes would be even more dramatic. Logging would stop, roads would crack and disappear beneath moss and roots. Old-growth forests would slowly return. Within a few centuries, massive forest corridors could stretch across entire continents. Ancient migration routes, once blocked by highways, fences, and cities, would open again. Predators would follow, wolves would reclaim former territories. Bears would wander into valleys long dominated by humans. Big cats could expand into regions where they had disappeared centuries earlier. Ecosystems would not return to some perfect ancient state. Too many species have already gone extinct. Too many landscapes have been permanently altered. But nature is adaptable, and in the absence of humans, it would begin to rebalance itself. The biggest changes might not happen on land, but in the oceans and the atmosphere. For centuries, humans have harvested the seas. Large fishing fleets operate across nearly every ocean on Earth. Without ships, nets, or sonar, the oceans would grow quieter. Fish populations would begin to recover. Large species like tuna and sharks could slowly return to higher numbers. Whales would once again cross oceans without the constant noise of ship engines. Old migration paths, abandoned because of shipping routes, might reopen. Coral reefs would face a more uncertain future. Some have already been severely damaged by warming waters and pollution. If global temperatures stabilized, certain reefs might slowly rebuild. But this process could take centuries. On the surface, the oceans would look calmer. Oil spills would eventually break down. Plastic would remain, but it would slowly fragment and sink, spreading through the deep sea. On land, coastal cities would still face rising sea levels. The climate system has long delays. Even without humans, the effects of past emissions would continue for generations. Seawalls would crumble, floodgates would fail, pumps would stop, and the ocean would move in. Harbors would become wetlands. Airports near the coast would disappear beneath shallow seas. Glass towers might stand for a while, surrounded by water and silence. Above it all, the sky would begin to change. Within days, aircraft contrails would vanish. Within weeks, air pollution would begin to settle. In a few months, the sky over many cities would appear clearer than it has in generations. And at night, something remarkable would return. Without artificial lights, the Milky Way would once again be visible from almost everywhere on Earth. A night sky. As it looked thousands of years ago, this scenario may sound like science fiction, but in many places we've already seen small glimpses of it. When cities are abandoned, nature returns. When fishing stops, marine life rebounds. When forests are left alone, they grow back. The Earth does not need humans to survive, but humans need the Earth. Without us, the planet would not become a lifeless wasteland. It would become something older, wilder, and quieter. Rivers would carve new paths. Forests would swallow roads. Animals would move across continents without borders. The world would not be empty. It would simply belong to something else, a planet shaped not by concrete and steel, but by wind, water, and time. Somewhere right now, there are places on Earth where humans rarely go. Remote valleys, deep oceans, frozen plateaus. In those places, the planet already looks almost untouched. Maybe the real question is not what Earth would look like without humans, but how much of it still remembers what that world was like, and whether one day we might choose to leave more of it that way. Hidden Earth TV explores the parts of our planet that remain untouched, unreachable, and unseen. If you want to discover more places where humanity does not belong, subscribe to Hidden Earth TV.